All right, welcome everybody listening from all around the world, all around this beautiful blue-green planet we call Gaia. Welcome everybody here listening in Australia, this beautiful country of ours. Welcome to the Mystic Drop, where each week we try and journey down the road less traveled by, as the great Robert Frost once poetically put. I'm your host, Roberto Roya, and joining me today is Dr. Ben Benulis. Dr. Ben Benulis is a plant-based doctor of chiropractic based in Phoenix, Arizona. After contracting an untreatable autoimmune disease in his late 20s, he turned to diet and lifestyle as a last-ditch means of trying to mitigate the disease. To his surprise, he was able to completely reverse his autoimmune condition in a matter of a few months without any drugs or surgery. He is a truth and freedom fighter and seeks to unleash the truth and sacred wisdoms to humanity. I'd like to give a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Benulis, Dr. Benulis. How are you going?
Doing excellent, having a really good day. Yeah, that was one heck of an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I know you're really busy and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad we could do this across the world. Magic of the internet. Here we are.
Yeah, awesome. Now, you're a first-time guest here, so we have a first-time guest incantation that I'd like to share with you, and It goes like this: we are two cosmic spiritual beings sitting around the campfire, two drops of light from the Great Spirit. Truth is our path, and wisdom is our teacher. We start with a salute, and now let our magic flow. All right. So yeah, again, thank you so you got the juice there, beautiful. So again, thank you so much. And I want to jump straight into this because I know your time is precious. In your opinion, as a practicing doctor, how did we get to this stage of a global medical dictatorship, in your opinion?
Well, it's something that's been in the works for a long time. And I think that, we can retrace all the steps back, but I think it's pretty much predicated on the philosophy that medicine has, that they see the human organism as this frail, incapable, impotent, unhealthy thing that their duty is to save it and to fix it. Okay. And that essentially it's helpless without them and their drugs and their surgeries.
Right.
So they think they're doing a good thing every time they do an intervention. They think that the more drugs that you're on, the better your life's going to be. They think that the more procedures they can do on you, the better your life's going to be. And we know objectively that most of the time it's the opposite. That if you can avoid having to go on drugs, if you can avoid having to go get surgery and still maintain good health, you're better off. And so this monster, not only do they think you're better off, but of course they get better off because, and I'm not talking about medical doctors in particular, but the system makes money. The sicker you are, the more money they can make from you. But if you're dead, they can't make any money from you. So they want to keep you this in between healthy and dead called sick. And the longer you're there, the more money they can make. And then they feel like heroes. It's like, oh, look at all the hospitals. Look at all the people we're taking care of. We're doing such a good job, right? And so, of course, if they can accidentally create a disease or on purpose create a disease or whatever happens, a disease comes out that requires everybody to get a medical intervention, everybody to get lots and lots of medical interventions. We've seen them, masks, social distancing, vaccines. The more and more medical interventions they can convince people that they need, the more money that they make. So this kind of thing is just like a godsend to them, right? That they think they're being the hero when in fact they're really the villain. And so it's like anything that perpetuates more medical interventions is a good thing to them. And so it's more money to be made. Like we're seeing drug companies making record profits and things like that. So this was always coming. The system was always basically trying to consume more and more. This monster just wanted more and more disease to feed it, right? So it was coming. I think it'll turn into a collapse of the medical system, which we can talk about, but I know this was kind of a long answer, but I think that's how we got here. We had the wrong philosophical approach from the beginning of trying to treat disease instead of trying to create health.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally 100% agree with you. And I thank you for your courage to speak out. And especially in days like this, there's so many doctors that are scared to speak out because the fear of losing their job and everything like this. So it takes a lot of courage, you know, for you to speak out like this. And I congratulate you on that. You know, going to the questions of the origins of this whole COVID situation. You know, they're saying that it came from the wet market and everything. You know, in your opinion, how did do you reckon it came from the lab and they had it all in the works?
I don't really know, and I'm going to answer for that question. But like, you know, like, where did it come from? Well, I think we know that it didn't come from a wet market. We've yet to find an animal that we can trace it back to. We've yet to find it, you know. So that doesn't really make much sense. Was it created in a lab? Maybe. One of the problems we have is we don't really have a good way of detecting it, right? Like, we think that we do. We have this PCR test, but it's an inherently faulty way to test for it. But it comes up with a lot of false positives. So modern medicine likes that. It's like, the more people we can label with the disease, the more people we can treat. And we see, you know, so it's like, oh, everybody gets tested all the time to find out if you have it. And then if you have it, then like, the more people that have it, well, the more money we can, you know, we can put you on a respirator, we can put you in a bed, we can bill insurance, we can, you know, do all these things. And then we get to be the heroes, right? So, you know, this disease probably exists, but not to the perpetuation that we think it is. Like, the flu just disappears, right? Like that makes no logical sense. So it's like, what we think is it, you know, maybe bigger than it actually is, but that's just the system trying to create more disease and create more problems so we can solve them, so we can make money.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't really know where it came from, but the fact is that if we'd all been taking care of our health and doing the things we needed to do to stay healthy, this really wouldn't have been a problem at all. Like, not at all. Yeah. You know, we see that like 78% of people who are hospitalized with it have like comorbidities and obesity and stuff like that. It's like, you know, frankly speaking, if we all weren't so fat, it wouldn't be the problem that it is. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And going into, you know, the health, and I know you're into alternative health and all that. What are some alternative remedies that you know, you've found through your own research and your own practices that we can do to deal with this pandemic?
Well, I'm going to give you an answer to that question you and your listeners probably don't like. I'm not a fan of remedies or cures. That's a medical model.
Yeah.
That's predicated on the idea that something's wrong with you and we need to fix it.
Yep.
There's a reason I haven't gotten COVID, and there's a reason that people who, you know, maintain their health, eat a healthy diet, exercise, meditate, get enough sleep, haven't gotten it, or if they get it, it's extremely mild and they don't need a remedy. Like, if we're having the conversation about remedies, like, we've already missed the boat. I don't treat any acute disease. That's not what I do. That's not what I'm involved in. So if, like, you want to come to me and say, should I take, you know, ivermectin or vitamin C or hydroxychloroquine? It's like, I'm not having that conversation with people. It's like, if you're drinking this every day, you're eating your fruits and vegetables and you're taking care of yourself, like, you're not going to be out there looking for a cure. Yeah. Because you're not going to get the disease.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, we're engrossed in this medical model. Like, even people who are in alternative health, alternative medicine are still engrossed in this model of like, oh, well, I don't want to take the mainstream medicine because I know that's bad. So I'm going to find alternative medicine, stuff that's safer and less harmful to me, and I know will still work. I think they're missing the boat too. Like, the philosophical lens that I want people to consider is that your body is inherently healthy and it can heal itself and it can stay healthy and it can fight disease if you provide the conditions to do so. Yeah. So, Yeah, I mean, there are alternative remedies out there. There are pharmaceutical drugs, non-pharmaceutical drugs that can help. That's not something that I believe I have enough expertise in to really comment on. And I really think that trying to have that conversation is missing the point. Not to fight off your question or give you an answer you don't like, but I just, like we said, I'm here to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here to give you an honest answer.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you what's really going on. And I think that is the truth as well as I can speak it.
Yeah. And that's exactly the answer that I wanted from you. Because if we, there's practitioners out there like Don Tolman, he talks about fasting and juicing as you're doing right now. And through your own experience, what benefits does that do to your body, especially that you've healed your own autoimmune disease in a couple of months?
Yeah, it's pretty transformative. This is really all about, you say fasting and juicing, this is a smoothie, but we'll call it it's fruits and vegetables, right?
Yeah.
It's fruit and leafy green vegetables blended with some water. Okay. No pills, powders, potions, drugs, oils, remedies in this thing. Okay. It's just stuff that grows out of the ground and off of a tree.
Yeah.
This is the natural diet of humans. It's fruits and vegetables. And so when we do things like fast, which we should do supervised, that's another discussion. Consume fruits and vegetables, whether it's in whole form, whether it's in smoothie form, whether it's in juice form. We provide the body with the conditions that it needs to thrive. Okay. So to maintain optimal weight, to feel good, to have energy, to not have pain. Okay. And if we have a disease condition, especially if we have a chronic disease condition, like an autoimmune disease, or like a type 2 diabetes, a metabolic condition, or a metabolic condition like heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, when we provide the body with the conditions to be healthy, which, diet's probably the most important one of those, the body can heal those problems. The body is very powerful if we give it the conditions to be powerful and we give it the substrates it needs to create health. It can do miraculous things. I saw my own disease condition remit in a matter of months when I started, drinking 2 or 3 of these a day.
Yeah.
So those modalities are powerful. Does the actual fruits and vegetables heal you? Not really. Your body heals you. Your body's always trying to heal itself. You have a cut, right? Like, unless you're rubbing dirt in there and picking at the scab, it heals, right?
Yeah.
You put a Band-Aid on the cut, the cut heals. Now, did the Band-Aid confer any sort of magical healing power? Did the Band-Aid contribute to, did the Band-Aid have healing power such that we put it on?
Exactly. No. It's just a cover.
It's just a cover, right? It just helped provide the right conditions. So no bacteria got in, no dirt got in, no, anything from the outside got in, and the body could just do its job.
Yeah.
So, these things these modalities exist. We think of them as healing modalities, but really they're just, the body is the hero. The body does the healing. We're either getting in the way or we're getting out of the way and letting it doing its thing. And this is the way of getting out of the way. But 99% of people out there are getting in their own way every day, all the time, and don't realize it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going back to the Band-Aid thing. That's what they think about the whole vaccine. They think that it's gonna heal them and it's gonna make the world better. And we're gonna get back to normal, but it's just a Band-Aid. That's all it is. It's still gonna be there.
Yeah, it's essentially superstition, right?
Yeah.
It's like once everybody gets the special science juice shot in their arm, then the disease will go away. And they've rewritten history in their own minds to believe that all these other epidemics and pandemics have gone away once we, mass jabbed everybody, right?
Exactly.
But then they don't want to think about all the diseases that went away on their own when we didn't do that, right? Yeah. So they want to give credit to the drug because, obviously someone had to do a lot of work and studying to create that and invest a lot of money, and they want to believe that their efforts weren't for naught. But that honestly isn't the case.
Yeah, exactly. In your field, being a doctor, have you come across other doctors that are, trying to speak out and get to the truth of what's really going on? Are there a lot out there?
Yeah, I mean, I've met quite a few. I've also like had fallings out with a lot of ones who, are basically believing all the hype.
Yeah.
And sadly, ones who once upon a time promoted things like nutrition and lifestyle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now think, oh, but with COVID, it's different. Everybody has to get vaccinated. And then there's a group of doctors who know everything that's happening is wrong. They know it's bad. They don't want to get the vaccine, but they're scared to speak up because they have a job, because they have friends, because they have colleagues. They don't want to be seen as crazy, and they don't want to be seen as a conspiracy theorists and all these labels that they try to put on people.
Yeah.
So they're out there, all three types for sure. So yeah, I have met others. To answer your question, yes.
What do you see the end game of all of this? Where do they want to go? The cabal, or whatever you want to call them, that's orchestrating all this.
Well, I can't say that there's a cabal. I think it's like what's going to make money, right? So obviously the next step in the game is boosters. It's all about the boosters. Well, the cases are surging, so we just need to give people more of the drug, right? Like, it wasn't enough to give everybody the drug. We thought that would work, right? And then remember, they said 1 dose. Oh, actually, you may need 2. Oh, actually, if you're immune compromised, you should probably get 3. Oh, actually, it's kind of failing, and this Delta variant thing is kind of sneaking through. So if we just give everybody a 3rd shot, then it'll be good. Oh, well, actually, maybe we need boosters every year. No, actually, maybe every 6 months. No, actually, maybe every 5 months, right? It's like, they're just going to try to, whether it's different drugs or the same drug, they're just going to keep coming up with reasons of why they need to give you more and more of them, and why they need to restrict your freedoms more and more and more, to try to, essentially act and futilely try to control something that their interventions don't work for at all. Like, if anything has shown us in the last, year and a half, it's like everything they're doing hasn't worked. Right? Lockdowns haven't worked. Masks haven't worked. Quarantines haven't worked. This science juice trying to shoot everybody up with really doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah.
But they're going to keep trying because that's just the tool set they have. So where it's going is just more and more drugs, more and more tests, more and more restrictions, until we say, guys, this is like, we put our foot down and we say enough, and more people speak up. So I don't like to talk too much about like, how bad could it get? Because I don't even want to think about that. I don't want anybody listening to think about that. Like, it's time to take action, and we know it's going to get worse. We get in specifics about that. I don't think that's very helpful. It should be around like, how do we stop this? That's the question we should be asking.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And that's what I was getting to then. Like, what can we do as a community, especially community of doctors? What would you like to say to them to get out of this situation and get back our freedoms and our liberties?
Well, I don't really have much to say to doctors. They either know or they don't know. They're either complicit, or they're ignorant, or they're in the know.
Yeah.
And it's going to take, it's not doctors that are going to solve this.
Yeah.
I'll continue to speak up, until they, try to, do whatever to stop me. I don't really care. I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But it's going to take mass non-compliance, and we've seen that generally in history, with any sort of movement of change for any sort of civil rights, whether it was racial rights in the 1960s, or the gay rights in the 1970s and 80s, or the women's rights in the early 20th century. There were a few things that they did which contributed to how they won. And the main thing was that they had 3.5% of the population, 3.5%, not 10%, not 20%, not 50%, 3.5% taking nonviolent direct action, protesting, not just posting about it on Facebook and posting about it in their secret Telegram group, like actually hitting the streets and actually protesting, actually meeting with their lawmakers and their officials, actually doing things like civil disobedience, actually taking action. Because before the internet, you couldn't just post about it on Facebook and hope it would change, right? You actually had to go out in the streets and do stuff. Yeah. Once we hit 3.5% of that, we can get change, but we're not there. So I do know that there's a lot of people on the fence There's a lot of people who are watching everything that's going on and they're pretending to go along because they don't want to get hit. They don't want to get dinged. They don't want their friends to think that they're, whatever label you want to throw on them. And that's part of the reason I speak out, is to get those people off the fence. Because ultimately there's more of us than there are of them. But they're, when the pharmaceutical industry de facto controls the media and really de facto controls the government, they make you think that there's a lot more of them, but there isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's happening. I went to a protest here in Coolangatta on the Gold Coast in Queensland a couple of weeks ago. And, it was peaceful. And you had the media there. And of course, they try and twist it around and saying it was, there was violence and everything. But it wasn't. People just want to be free and live a simple life. So I hope we can get back to it soon. In your journey, what period of your life did you like wake up and say, yeah, something's wrong in the world?
Well, I think it was gradual. I think there was different times that I had certain things were sort of revealed to me or like hit me in the head hard enough.
Yep.
I say life, it can tickle you with a feather, it can hit you with a 2x4, or it can, run you over the Mack truck.
Yeah.
And I definitely had my fair share of feathers and 2x4s until I got hit with the Mack truck when I was about 28. Yeah. And came down with like a really bad chronic disease and found that, after kind of going the medical route, they really couldn't help me. And I was, it was up to me to figure this out. And when I changed my diet, and I saw within a matter of months, chronic fatigue disappear, chronic pain disappear, chronic eczema disappear, terrible digestive issues disappear. Like it all just kind of went away, and I felt better than I had in my entire life. Like I literally watched my body transform. And that was huge for me. Like experiencing that firsthand was a huge paradigm shift. Because, you could sit here all day and we could talk about how the body heals itself and fruits and vegetables are good for you and you should, take care of your health, blah, 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 blah. And you can read about someone's transformation story on the internet of like, hey, here are my pants that I used to wear and they're really big. And you go, oh, wow, that's cool. But when you experience it firsthand, that's a whole nother something else. So that was like, that really flipped the script for me. And so when I realized that like health and disease, weren't what was presented to me, that like basically, oh, if you get sick, you go to a doctor and they give you drugs and then you get better. That paradigm shattered for me. I realized like that was largely a farce.
Yeah.
And that really opened me up to like re-examining a lot of other things that I had just sort of believed all my life to be true. So that was, after that was the big one. And then I just uncovered more stones as I went along.
Yeah. And like when you started, that alternative healing within yourself with the lifestyle change and especially with the food and the smoothies and everything, what were the steps that you took to change it all?
Really, it started out kind of stupid. It was like, I have really bad digestive problems. Like every food I eat makes me sick. What can I eat that won't make me sick? And it was like, well, fruits and vegetables I know won't upset my stomach. And I got to eat a lot of them, but I'm lazy. I don't like to cook. Maybe I'll just start throwing them all in a blender.
Yep.
Because it's kind of like using a microwave. Like you just open it up and you put the food in and then you close the door and then you press a button and a minute later you got your food, right? I've been microwaving stuff my whole adult life. And I was like, this is kind of like a microwave, but for healthy food. And so I just started doing that because I just didn't have any other options. I wasn't like trying to be a vegan or trying to follow any specific diet. I was just trying to get out of pain. Like I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just looking, like trying to figure out something that would work, because like this was like literally reading no books, having no knowledge about anything. This was just like me using my brain to figure out what can I do here. Yeah. And so when it started to work and it started to feel better, then I really dove deeper into it. Then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going online and I'm looking up recipes and I'm finding people that are drinking smoothies every day and they're, talking about all the health benefits and they, reversed all these health conditions. And I'm like, wow, that's that's really cool. I should do more of this. And so it just really started really small. And then I just saw benefits and I just stuck with it. And just out of pure curiosity and excitement, taught myself more, learned more, because I just wanted to know and I was having a good time. And that's how it started, honestly.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've had a lot of, clients come to you with all this. What have they said about, what you've imparted to them about the change in lifestyle and food and everything?
I've seen some pretty wild stuff. I've seen some, like some people get well with things that when they came to me, they say, what can we do? What can we, like, well, we can try this, we can do this, we might not be able to get you 100% better, but we get you feeling a lot better. And I've seen nothing short of miracles. Wow. I've had people who've been told your entire colon needs to be cut out. You're going to, poop into a plastic bag on the side of your stomach for the rest of your life. I've had people with, all kinds of autoimmune disease, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, reverse it. Their doctor tells them we don't even need you on medications anymore. I've had, the most crazy recent one is I have a woman who, she has multiple sclerosis, and she has a sequela of multiple sclerosis called optic neuritis, where multiple sclerosis affects your brain and your nerves, and hers has affected her optic nerve, which controls her vision. She's been blind for 12 years. And now her vision is starting to come back.
Wow.
Not that she can fully see, and I'm not making any claims about what I can do. She, she can just see shadows, and she can see shapes in front of her, and she can, like, see kind of a little bit, and maybe it'll get better than that, maybe it won't, but like that's one thing that there's a lot of stuff I've seen.
Wow, that is amazing. Are there any other stories that you can share with us like this?
I've got a lot of stories. So I did a 3-month internship at a place called True North Health in California, which is an inpatient residential health center where people come and they feed them a plant-based diet, whole food plant-based diet, and they do things like supervised fasting, supervised juice fasting, things like that. And I saw some really wild things there. I saw a guy who had Sjogren's disease, which is an autoimmune disease that attacks your tear ducts and your salivary glands. And basically people lose all their teeth and go blind and die. Very bad disease. Mainstream medicine says there is no cure. This guy did a 20-day water fast, supervised. And every day I was an intern there, I would check on him. And about day 12, I come in and he's like, just got this bucket next to his bed and he just keeps spitting into the bucket. Yeah. And I said, what's going on? Are you okay? Are you throwing up? Like, because I'm thinking, okay, he's having an adverse event. We need to stop the fast and we need to, like cut it off, because he's struggling. Maybe he needs medical attention. And he's like, I started today. I've just been having like really bad saliva to where like the saliva that's coming out of my mouth is so caustic. It like burns my tongue. It tastes horrible. And I just have to keep spitting. Yeah. I was up all night spitting because I can't even hold it in my mouth for even a second. I haven't slept, feel awful. And I'm like, well, do you want to, so he's essentially detoxing out of his salivary glands. Okay. And I'm like, do you want to continue the fast? Because I can bring the doctor in and we can end your fast. He's like, I'm going to tell him about it. We may need to end your fast, but do you want to stop or do you want to keep going? He's like, I want to keep going, because he's very determined to beat his disease, to reverse his disease. Yeah. Like 2 more days of spitting, it's still going on. Finally, I come in and he's got a towel on his mouth. And he's like, I figured out a trick, Ben. He's like, if I just keep the towel in my mouth, I can just kind of spit into the towel and the towel absorbs it and I don't have to keep spitting and I can actually sleep now because I just kind of keep the towel in my mouth at night. and it works. And so he had caustic spit for another 5 days. And then come day 20, it stopped. And based on just, checking his vitals and a bunch of other things, we said, it's time to end your fast. It's time to be done. And so this is a refeeding process after a fast. It's very intricate. It's very, you want to do this under medical supervision. Nobody should fast for more than 2 days without medical supervision. But anyway, we refed him, reversed his disease. He was had no more symptoms after that. That was pretty wild. Had another guy 7 days into a juice fast, also had Sjogren's. I come in to check on him because I'm the intern there. I'm checking on everybody twice a day, just making sure that they're okay. And I'm trying to talk to him. And he's like he's trying to talk, and he's not making much sense. And he's like pointing to his ear. He can't hear me too well. And I go and I look at his ear, and there's just like earwax, just like you've seen earwax before, but it's like completely coming out. It's like dripping down the side of the face here, like just like like a half a pound of earwax is like come out of his ear. And he can't hear anything. And I'm like, oh my God, like what's going on? Obviously he's detoxing out his ears. And so I bring in one of the residents. He like kind of scoops it all out and gets in there and cleans all the wax out. And then, that was like his healing event, that he basically detoxed whatever was causing his disease. And then we refed him and he got well. So saw a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's through the fasting, it's like the body just gets rid of anything that it needs, that it's making harm to the body. It's a miracle. A lot of mystics, they all this comes from the ancient tribes. They used to practice this. Do you think as a society it could help us to go back to those old times and those practices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but everybody in the Bible did fast. Like all the main characters fasted for 40 days, like some of them multiple times. And because the ancients knew that the body healed itself.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have medications. Like these synthetic pharmaceutical medications are less than 100 years old for the most part, most of them. Yeah. It's a really novel phenomenon. And back then it was just like, okay, we need to stop any interventions. The best intervention was no intervention, let the body heal itself.
Yeah.
And that really is the most powerful. Like, look, are there going to be times when you need a medical intervention? Like if my leg gets cut off when I get run over by a car, like, of course, I'm not going to just like pour the green smoothie on it and, pray to God and I'll get better. Like, obviously sew the leg back on. But, most of the burden of chronic disease that we see out there, obviously obesity, heart disease, diabetes, autoimmunity, any of these metabolic conditions, they're all diet and lifestyle related. Yeah. And we're trying to medicate people out of problems they behaved their way into. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. These wouldn't be the leading causes of death if it worked, right? We have to behave our way out. Yeah. Right. So yes, if we reverted to a lot, do we need to revert to like bloodletting and stuff like that? No, but we could revert to just taking better care of ourselves. Yeah. And just getting the fundamentals dialed before we try to do all the fancy stuff. Like, let's learn how to play a simple A major scale before we, try to, play jazz guitar, right?
Exactly. That's right. And going to like the mental state of people, like here in Australia, the suicides rate's just gone since the lockdowns, have occurred. I don't know how is it over there in America? Are you guys out of lockdown yet, or is it still happening?
Good question. So it varies. America's a big country of 50 different states. I think in Australia, you guys have what, like between states and territories, maybe like 7 or 8. Yeah. So we got 50. So there's a lot of variety. Yeah. And there's states that have done a lot of lockdowns, have mandated a lot of things. There's, states that are trying to force everybody to get, the poke. So some states have done a lot. Some states haven't done very much. It's kind of a spectrum. I'm in a state that, we really, we did the 15 days to flatten the curve. I think we tried to do, some cities tried to implement curfews. They lasted for maybe a few weeks or a month or two before they realized they just couldn't enforce them and they stopped doing them. But it's been nothing like Australia. We've been able to preserve our freedoms a lot more. And so we haven't been as susceptible to lockdowns, especially in the states that politically lean more conservative. And that's not really an endorsement of any sort of political views. That's just just a statement of what's happened.
Yeah. I had a senator here in Queensland on the show last week, and and he said that our freedoms are being ripped away day by day. The lockdowns are having that impact on the mental aspect of people's minds and their lifestyle and everything. So it's if Australia feels like a jail right now, no one can travel, no one can, and yet the premiers and politicians, some of them, they've been going overseas to the Olympics, in Japan and everything like that. It's just it's crazy what's going on. Where, in your opinion, what advice would you give to people here in Australia to step up and get back our freedoms?
I mean, I would, nonviolent, peaceful, direct action.
Yeah.
And if you have people in power that you don't like, there are pathways within the laws there and the legal system to remove them from power, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That you live in a democracy, and so when people are dissatisfied with the leaders, they can remove them. It's a process. You got to get people involved. You got to get people doing that.
Yeah.
And you got to simply disobey. There's a phrase that goes like, now I can't remember it now, but basically, you have a duty to disobey tyrannical laws. And so I, keep that in mind, and not be passive, and be willing to stand up and be willing to, be arrested if that's what it takes for doing the right thing. I think that's what it is. And just, more action, more getting out in the streets. And, eventually the movement just gets so big. It's like, they can't arrest everybody. They can't tune everybody out. They have to do something about it. Yeah.
We'll look at like some countries in Europe, France, they're standing up by the millions in the streets. The media's not really, reporting on it, but it's happening. Denmark as well. Sweden hasn't had any mandates or lockdowns at all. They've just trusted the people to get on with it. Because this is one thing that I've been against from the beginning. Masks, the mask mandates. What as a doctor, what's your views and opinions on masks?
I mean, masks are essentially a superstition, but let's be honest. In an operating room, can they keep bacteria out of an open wound? Probably, yeah. But I mean, a virus, especially a respiratory virus, is so small. A mask's not going to block it. And really, you have an immune system. That's what's going to save you. If you think you can just hermetically seal yourself away from a virus, you're kidding yourself, right? But again, medicine wants to be the hero, right? And so it's these billions of masks have been manufactured. Someone's making money off of that, right? And it's okay, it wouldn't be politically correct to tell a fat person to lose weight, but we can just put a rag over their face, and now we say, oh, they're healthy, they're protected, right? So it's really just kind of what's the word? A trite sort of way of saying, oh, I'm doing something without really actually doing anything. And ultimately there are side effects, there are consequences. There are consequences of always walking around in mask, breathing your own bacteria in, not being able to see faces, not being able to hear each other, not being able to pick up on, nonverbal communication. If there's marginal benefit, it's so small. It's the risks and the downsides far outweigh the benefits. There are far better ways to protect yourself from a respiratory virus by, doing these things behind me, taking good care of your health, that, are far more effective. So the masks are just sort of a token way of hey, look at me, I'm helping, I'm doing something. It's I won't use a plastic straw and I'll save fish. It's a way of virtue signaling and gesturing that you're trying to do something without actually having to really do something.
Yeah, exactly. And it breaks my heart, especially when I see, children walking around. Me and my partner, we just had our baby girl 5 months ago. And I don't want to see her walking around in the world with masks and, getting all paranoid because she doesn't, see people's faces, their expressions and everything. Do you see it ending with the masks, or do you think, because here in Australia, they're saying that these restrictions and especially with masks and everything are going to continue even when the population is at 80% vaccinated. So you can't see no end in sight with this.
No, of course there's no end. You're not going to comply your way out of it. It's not like, oh, we all just wear masks for longer, eventually they'll, no, like the more you go along with it, the more restrictions are going to get put in place. Yeah. This is the nature of the beast. So it's like, when's it going to go away? It's never going to go away. None of it's going to go away until you stand up and say no. And enough people do the same. Exactly. Like that's when it's going to go away. It's not going to go away on its own. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. What's the, I know we're coming to nearly to the end here. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in your life so far?
I guess there's lots of them, but for sake of simplicity, health is the result of healthy living. Okay. And there are no contraindications to living a healthy lifestyle, only benefits, right? And really we're at the point where now, living a healthy lifestyle not only gives you health, but it gives you freedom. Yeah. It gives you freedom knowing that you're not going to be dependent upon this essentially predatory system, this medical pharmaceutical industrial complex. That's your way of sidestepping it. That's your way of not ever needing it. So I would say, the biggest lesson I've learned in my life is take impeccable care of your health, because without that, you really have nothing. Yeah,
exactly. That's a beautiful thing to say. And what messages of hope would you like to give to humanity around the world?
We're in the majority, okay? There's more of us than there is of them. They've done a good job of making us think that we're in the minority, but there's a large, there's a big group of people who are sitting on the fence, scared to take action. And a lot of those people are probably listening right now. And my charge to you is take action, get off the fence. Yeah. It's like, there's a quote that I actually like to read.
Yeah. Please share.
Let me just pull it up here. It's by Winston Churchill.
Yep.
And it says, if you will not fight for right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory is sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you'll have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may be even a worse case. You may have to fight when there's no hope of victory, because it's better to perish than to live as slaves. We're still at that first stage. We still have a chance to win. It's not futility. We just got to get enough people active and enough people off their butts and enough people, being brave and set an example so that other people can do it.
Yeah.
The power is in the people's hands. They just have to wield it.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. And that was a beautiful quote that you read out. I haven't heard that one before. And one of my favorite ones that I quote a lot is, the brighter the light, the blacker the shadow. And I think there's a lot of light coming into the world, especially even before the pandemic started. A lot of people were coming together and waking up in big time. And I think that's why they've come so hard on us now, because they know that people are waking up and standing together and introducing these measures of social distancing to keep people apart. But I think we're going to get through it, and I have hope in my heart and positivity, and shed the light and get this message out and talk to people like you to wake even more people up, because that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I share one more thing?
Yeah.
Because I really liked what you said about, the brighter light, the bigger the shadow. And, a lot of times, a lot of the good things that have come in this world have been like, because we got the contrast of the bad thing and realized we didn't want it, right? Like, we've always known that our medical system was not the greatest, that it was really expensive, and all these people never got well, and it cost too much, and like, doctors mean well, but all these people are still getting sick and dying of cancer and all these things. And we kind of knew it was dysfunctional, and we instead, given lip service to fixing it for a long time. But now this has shed light on just how insanely dysfunctional it is. And so a lot of people are waking up and realizing, like, I want out. I want to opt out of this thing, because this is death. Like, this is the jaws of death, and I'm going to do anything to not be involved. Yeah. So if you look at like certain social change movements, and this is just one example, and I'll just relate my own experience, noticing this when this all happened 7-8 years ago, was the gay marriage thing, right? Like, it didn't really start with people saying like, oh, gay people need to get married. We need to fight for their rights. We need to, like, it was just kind of a thing that for a long time, gay people couldn't get married. Yeah. And then it was about, 10, 12 years ago, however long ago, people started coming out and say, we have to not let gay people get married. It's wrong, right? And we have to make a law that specifically says that they can't. Yep. And all these other people went, wait a second, why do they want to do that? Yeah. That's weird. Like, when I think about it, like, why shouldn't gay people get married? Like, that's not really a big deal to me. If they did, it's nothing to do with me. I think that they should. And so then there was, like, from this push of like outlawing it, there was this counter push of like, no, let's legalize it. Yeah. And then it became this big movement. But if they hadn't tried to like stop it in the first place, it probably wouldn't have been a thing. We're seeing that here, where it's like, oh, disease, vaccine, lockdown, mask, blah, blah. And everyone's like, whoa, hold the phone. I don't want to be doing any of this. Why were you even letting you guys be in charge in the first place? This is ridiculous. We're fighting back. Yeah. So that's what I see happening. Yeah, 100%. And I'm in that fight 100%. I've always said I'm going to fight the good fight till the end, no matter what. And absolutely. Spiritually, I'm not talking religiously, but spiritually, I've felt like I've done that in many lifetimes before. So I'm honored to be in this part of history and having this beautiful conversation with you as well. Where can people go and find you and support your work, and even come to you as a client? Sure, absolutely. So you can find me. It's my name on all the major social media platforms, Dr. Benjamin Benulis. You can put in the show notes, but that's my name on Instagram, although you have to type out the full thing because I'm shadow banned. drbenjaminbenulis.com is my website. That's my name on YouTube, on Facebook. Just search my name, and I guess maybe Google's kind of shadow banned me, but that's where I'm at. You should be able to find me by looking for me, but you can put my stuff in the show notes. And then if you do want to contact me or you need help, just reach out to me on one of those platforms. It's fine. Yeah, beautiful. I'll definitely put all those links down the bottom. So people can find you. So you got shadow banned. When did that happen? I'm not sure, but I've been noticing that as my popularity increases, that the restrictions on me and the censorship on me, like, kind of goes hand in hand with that. But someone told me that they saw one of my posts and they tried to find me and they couldn't find me, and they couldn't find me on Instagram until they exactly typed out my exact Instagram name down to the last letter. It's long. I have a long name. And so that's when I found out I was shadow banned. Wow. Well, I'm glad I can support you and get your message out, to people around the world, and because it's important. What you're doing is so important. And again, I congratulate you on that for stepping up and speaking your truth. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I really enjoyed the interview. Great questions, got me fired up. So I hope this gets a lot of other people fired up, because we need you. We need you taking action. You don't need to be a doctor. You don't need to be a scholar or a scientist, anybody special. You just need to know that what's going on isn't right and be willing to take nonviolent direct action to stop it. Yeah, no, well said. And, maybe down the track, as events happen and occur down the track, we could get you back on the show and go even deeper into things as well. Absolutely, would love to. Yeah, thank you so much. This is Roberto Roya from the Mystic Drop. You've been listening to Dr. Benjamin Benulis. Thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. See you, mate. Bye. Thank you.